I guess I was having a little nightmare. Get it? Like the title? See, it's a joke because I'm not a big fan of horror games.
Just take my money!
Which sucks, honestly. I want to experience every single genre of video game, but because I get jump scared by a phone call, I've just never been able to get into the genre. I remember almost crying playing Call of Duty Zombies for the first time. That being said, even though I detest horror games, sometimes one will really pique my interest and I'll actually buy it. Like with the Resident Evil 2 remake. I promise, someday I'll actually play this, but I mean, the title's horrifying enough. Instead, today I'll be talking about Little Nightmares, a game I've had on my Switch for ages. And you're probably wondering why the Switch version? Well, it's a horror game. I'm not used to horror games, so I'm gonna need a little bit of comfort. And if we scan in the Pac-Man amiibo, now I feel safe. Little Nightmares is very good. Maybe it's because it's the first horror game I haven't had to put down after an hour, but I was hooked by everything this game is throwing at me. Now, there are two stories on the Switch version. This girl in the yellow raincoat is named either Six or The Six, and this kid is named The Kid. This game is pretty light on an overall plot. Six is trying to escape from this complex called the Maw, and that's all you have to know. I'll probably go more into plot later, but honestly, it's more of a reason for Six to experience the atmosphere in this world because, wow, this game nails it. So, Little Nightmares implies two things. One is that you're little, and this game absolutely nails that. You'll be climbing on bookshelves, walking through vents, sneaking around giant-sized rooms you'd find in a regular house. It's all fantastically creative, and makes platforming around these areas so much fun. The second thing is nightmares, and that's the inhabitants of this giant world. The only, basic enemy is... I just got killed by a turd. These leeches will leech the life out of you. Now, you don't have a life counter, but for some reason the game takes a good bit of time to load after you die, so yeah, that's punishment enough. The main enemies are the people that are living in the mall. My favourite one was actually the first one that we encounter in the game called the Janitor. He absolutely nails having a creepy design. For some reason he has a scarf covering almost all of his face, and he has really long arms and big ears. So he's attracted to basically any noise you make on the ground, and it's really hard to escape because he can reach you basically anywhere. I found all the puzzles around this guy super fun to figure out, and there's even a boss battle-esque final sequence with him. It's perfection. This game nails the creepy atmosphere. First of all, there are no jump scares at all in this game. Just like this video. Trust me. But throughout the game, there's constantly disturbing imagery and things to observe. Some of these are very dark and serious themes, but they're constantly making you think more about this world, about how it came to be, and I was constantly intrigued about what was next, what I'd have to figure out. Also, in a nice touch, the screen is swaying side to side as you play, because you find out later you're on the ocean. So it makes sense when you play through it, and it's not nauseating, but I feel uneasy because I'm constantly having to adjust the angle I'm looking at the screen, and it just felt like the perfect balance to me. Now again, the main game is quite short, which means there aren't that many new areas, and it only took me about 3 hours to beat the main game, but I feel like the game does everything it needs to within that length of time. Oh, also, there are collectibles in this game. You have to smash these statues, and there are these strange creatures called gnomes. Now, I kept finding these guys, and I thought that was what you had to do. Turns out, you have to hug them, so only the last one counted. Oops. I do want to talk about the end of the game for a bit here, so here's the time you need to skip to. I'm going to talk about it now in the 3, 2, 1. So, as you play through the game, here's the thing. The creatures want to eat you. It's kind of shown a bit through the game. You see children locked in jail cells, which is followed by a kitchen. And then when you reach the outside of the mall, you see these grotesque large figures boarding the boat. And then you run through the dining area and see them eating meat. Which, yeah, it's probably made from children. Oops. So, yeah, there's the motivation for Six also escaping. But she also has her own story. So, occasionally throughout your journey, Six will get hungry. And the first couple times, she finds something to eat, which is good. But then there's a rat, and you're hungry. So, well, you can tell what happens. And throughout the game, there's a hint at, like, a final boss called the Lady. She is very foreboding, she's supernatural, and eventually you get to beat her, and Six gets hungry, so yeah. But this leads to, like, a super satisfying ending sequence, where Six now has the lady's powers, and she begins absorbing the life out of all of the guests on the ship who are eating the children. And in the credits, we see Six waiting outside the mall for a ship to arrive, and I think that's where Little Nightmares 2 picks up, but we won't know until later this year, so that's kinda neat. Oh, we're back. Sorry. That was Little Nightmares. It was enjoyable. It was a good game. Good things happen. Wait, there's still the other plot. Let's talk about the kid. While you should wait until you beat the main game to play through the second story, I found it a lot more enjoyable, actually. It's a lot more linear, but there's a lot more focus on platforming rather than exploration, and it was a really nice difference when going through. There are 3 different chapters, each with a different theme, lasting about an hour. The first chapter, The Depths, sees the kid having to worry about water, because something in the water is trying to make you hiccup, because something in the water is trying to kill you. And it's terrifying, but it's done really well, because you're constantly trying to avoid water, but sometimes you'll have to platform across and swim really fast because there's no other way, and more often than not, you'll like barely make it across, and then you have to worry about the next problem, and it's really, really good. The second chapter, called The Hideaway Kid, sees the kid working with the gnomes to proceed through this coal mine area, and also avoid the janitor, and I'm so glad he came back. I was excited to... I mean, not really to see this guy, he's horrifying, but to play this at least. And you'll have to guide the gnomes to solve the puzzles with you, kinda like Pikmin. And just like Pikmin, they sometimes get stuck and need reassurance. It's adorable. The final chapter, The Residence, takes place in an expanded final area of the base game. Somewhere that wasn't really given much attention before. It was kind of just like a boss place. But now it's like a whole area, and it's so worthwhile to play through this, because you get a very good twist ending, and it's horrifying but satisfying. And that was Little Nightmares, and... you know, I really enjoyed this game, and I really wasn't expecting to, but the atmosphere of the world and, like, the plot and everything going on, I just felt intrigued the entire time. I just kept going forward, and God, it was so good. This is what I've been missing in horror games this whole time. Looking into it more, apparently Little Nightmares 2 is coming out later this year, and now I'm really excited for that. But apparently there's also a prequel that's on mobile devices called Very Little Nightmares. I haven't played it yet, so I'm going to insert in my opinions of the mobile game right now. It was okay. The game definitely won't be for everyone. It does get really dark at times, but if you're on the fence and it's on sale, or you're just looking for a new, quite short game to play, I definitely recommend getting the Switch version. It doubles your playtime because it includes all the DLC and everything, and you can use a Pac-Man amiibo, and that's just good game design. But with that, I think I'm ready to face my own Little Nightmare. I can't do it.